This is the greatest day of my life! He takes the ball past the defender. The tension is palpable here. He strikes it from distance. Can the goalkeeper reach it? Goal! Goal! Woo-hoo-hoo! Look at all those glowing screens.
I'm streaming it live, Dad!
He's down at the 40, the 30. This is for the championship. He takes the shot. Yes! He scores! Unbelievable! Yes, it is a goal for the ages! And the crowd goes wild! A truly historic victory! Soccer madness!
The Simpsons' terrifying 2026 World Cup prediction. Nobody noticed. For more than 30 years, millions of people have watched The Simpsons for one simple reason: to laugh. But hidden underneath the jokes, the chaos, and the ridiculous situations in Springfield, something strange has happened. Again and again, moments from the show have appeared to mirror events that happened years later. A joke about technology, a joke about politics, a joke about the future. And now, as the world prepares for the 2026 World Cup, fans believe they have discovered another strange connection. But this time, the prediction may not be about who wins. It may not even be about football. Because the real message hidden inside the Simpsons moment could be about something much bigger: the future of sports itself. The idea that the Simpsons can predict the future has become one of the biggest mysteries surrounding the show. Of course, the writers are not actually seeing tomorrow before it happens. The reality is much more interesting. For decades, the show has watched society carefully. It has taken trends, technology, celebrity culture, and human behavior, then exaggerated them. Sometimes those exaggerations eventually become reality. And when they do, people return to Springfield looking for clues. Not because they think a cartoon family has supernatural powers, but because they wonder, how did they notice something that everyone else missed? And that question is exactly why the 2026 World Cup theory has captured so much attention. Why this World Cup is different. The 2026 World Cup is unlike any tournament before it. It will be the largest World Cup ever held, a global event watched by billions of people. But the biggest changes will not only happen on the pitch. Football itself is entering a new era. Fans are no longer just watching matches. They are experiencing them through smartphones, social media, virtual communities, instant reactions, and artificial intelligence. A single moment during a game can become a worldwide conversation within seconds. A player can become famous overnight. A controversial decision can spread across the planet before the referee even leaves the field. The game is changing. And strangely enough, that is where the Simpsons connection becomes interesting. The Simpsons formula. One of the biggest reasons Simpsons predictions feel so powerful is because they rarely come from nowhere. They usually start with something already happening. The writers look at the world around them and ask, what happens if this trend continues? What if technology becomes too powerful? What if entertainment becomes more important than reality? What if people become obsessed with the next big thing? The show takes real concerns, turns them into comedy, and creates exaggerated worlds that feel impossible. Until suddenly, the impossible does not seem so impossible anymore. That is why fans have started searching through older episodes again. Because hidden inside hundreds of episodes are thousands of tiny details. A background screen, a newspaper headline, a fictional product, a small joke that lasts only a few seconds. Most viewers never notice them. They are designed to disappear into the episode. But years later, those same details can look completely different. A scene that once felt like harmless comedy can suddenly feel like a warning. And this is where the 2026 World Cup mystery begins. Because fans noticed something unusual, not a prediction written in giant letters, not a character announcing the future, something much more subtle, a small idea hidden inside a bigger joke. When people hear the words Simpsons prediction, most people immediately ask, what exactly did they predict? Who will win? What event will happen? What date will something occur? But that might be the wrong question. Because the strongest Simpsons predictions are rarely about specific events. They are about direction. They show where society is moving, the technology we become dependent on, the habits we develop, the things we accept as normal, and sometimes. Those predictions are not scary because they are impossible. They are scary because they feel familiar. So what exactly did fans find? And why are some people connecting it to the biggest football tournament on Earth? The answer is not as simple as a winning team or a final score. Because the deeper you look, the more it seems like the real prediction was never about one game. It was about how the entire world would experience the game. And once you see that connection, you start noticing something else. Something hidden in plain sight. Something that changes the way you look at Springfield forever. Because maybe The Simpsons did not predict the 2026 World Cup. Maybe it predicted what the World Cup would become. The interesting thing about The Simpsons is that the biggest clues are rarely hidden in the places people expect. They are not always in the main story. They are often somewhere in the background. A quick visual, a throwaway joke, a strange idea that seems completely random at first. That is because The Simpsons has always worked on multiple levels. A child can watch an episode and laugh at the obvious joke, but an adult might notice something completely different. A social comment, a prediction about technology, or a warning about where the world is heading. And that is exactly why fans began looking closer at old episodes connected to sports, media, and the future. Why sports appear so often? In Simpsons, sports have always been a perfect subject for The Simpsons. Because sports are not just about competition. They are about emotion. They create heroes, villains, unexpected victories, devastating losses. And most importantly, they reveal human behavior. A sports event can show how people react when they are excited, angry, obsessed, or afraid. And throughout its history, The Simpsons has used sports as a mirror. Not to predict a specific score, but to show how the world around sports changes. The way fans watch, the way companies advertise, the way technology enters the game, and the way entertainment slowly becomes connected to everything we do. The new era of football. Think about how different watching football feels today compared to 20 years ago. A fan no longer needs to wait until tomorrow's newspaper to discuss a match. They do not need to wait for a television show to analyze the biggest moments. Everything happens instantly. A goal is replayed millions of times within minutes. A player's reaction becomes a meme. A controversial decision creates debates across continents. The match continues long after the final whistle. And this is where the Simpsons connection becomes interesting. Because years ago, the show repeatedly explored a future where entertainment would become faster, louder, and more connected. A future where the screen in front of you would become your entire world. At the time, it seemed exaggerated. Today, it feels much closer to reality. The clue hidden in the idea. The mistake many people make is searching for a prediction that says World Cup 2026. They expect a character to hold a sign. They expect a trophy, a date, a winner. But The Simpsons rarely works that way. The show's most interesting ideas are usually hidden inside bigger concepts. A joke about technology becomes a conversation about the future. A ridiculous invention becomes something people actually use. A fictional trend becomes a real cultural shift. The clue connected to the 2026 World Cup is fascinating because it follows the same pattern. It is not a prediction of one moment. It is a prediction of a transformation, a change in how people experience the world. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Because the prediction people are searching for may not actually be about the World Cup. It may be about something happening around it. The attention, the technology, the endless stream of content surrounding the event. Because in the modern world, the biggest sporting events are no longer just watched. They are consumed, analyzed, shared, remixed, and transformed into millions of smaller moments. The match itself becomes only one piece of a much larger experience. And that idea is something The Simpsons has explored for years. The human side of the prediction. But the most interesting part is not the technology. It is the people. Because every major change in entertainment creates the same question. Are we controlling the technology, or is the technology changing us? The 2026 World Cup will not only test athletes, it will test how billions of people interact with a global event. Will fans remember the actual matches, or will they remember the viral moments? The memes, the controversies, the clips that appeared everywhere for a few days before disappearing? That question sounds modern, but it is exactly the type of question The Simpsons has been asking for decades. And this brings us to the part that makes this theory so fascinating. Because when fans looked back at these old Simpsons ideas, they noticed something unexpected. The show was not simply imagining the future. It was predicting a change in human behavior. A world where moments become more important than events, where attention becomes the most valuable thing, and where the biggest game on Earth could become something completely different. But there is still one question remaining. If this was the real prediction, why did The Simpsons hide it inside comedy? And what does it reveal about the future we are already entering? Because the answer is much stranger than most people expect. The question behind the prediction. For years, people have searched through The Simpsons looking for one thing: a guaranteed prediction, a hidden message, proof that somewhere inside Springfield, the future was already written. But maybe that is not what makes these moments interesting. Maybe the reason these predictions stay with people is because they reveal something about ourselves. We are fascinated by the future because we are uncertain about it. We want to know what is coming. We want signs, patterns, warnings, something that tells us we are prepared. And that is exactly why a simple cartoon joke can become something much bigger. Why Simpsons predictions feel different. A normal prediction tries to tell you this exact thing will happen. But The Simpsons works differently. It does not usually predict the event. It predicts the environment around the event. It predicts the world that makes the event possible. That difference is important because the future is rarely created by one huge moment. It happens through thousands of small changes. The way people communicate, the way people spend their time, the way people consume information, the way technology slowly becomes part of everyday life. And when those changes finally become obvious, people look backward and realize the signs were there all along. The World Cup as a cultural event. The World Cup has never been just a football tournament. It is a global cultural event. For 1 month, people who normally have nothing in common suddenly share the same conversations. Different countries, different languages, different backgrounds, all connected by the same moments. But the way people experience those moments has completely changed. In the past, a legendary goal might live forever through memories. Today, it lives through millions of digital copies. A single second can be replayed forever. A player's celebration can become a worldwide symbol. A mistake can follow someone for years. The moment does not disappear. It multiplies. And that is the strange future. The Simpsons seems to understand. But there is another layer to this story. Because the future of sports is not only about how we watch, it is about who controls the experience. For decades, television companies controlled the story. They decided what fans saw, they decided what moments mattered. But the modern world works differently. Now, millions of people create their own version of the event. A fan with a phone can capture a moment seen by more people than a traditional broadcast. A single post can change the conversation. The audience is no longer just watching the story. The audience is helping create it, and that changes everything. The real scary part. This is where the word terrifying takes on a different meaning. The scary part is not that a cartoon somehow knew the future. The scary part is that the future is arriving exactly the way many people imagined. A world where attention is constantly competing for your eyes, where every event becomes a battle for engagement, where the most important moment might not be the one that happens on the field, but the one that spreads across the internet afterward. The 2026 World Cup may create unforgettable memories, but some of those memories may not come from the match itself. They may come from everything surrounding it. And this changes the entire meaning of the prediction. Because maybe fans have been asking the wrong question. They have been asking, did The Simpsons predict the 2026 World Cup? But the deeper question is, Did The Simpsons predict the way we would experience the future? Because that is a much more powerful idea. A prediction does not have to tell you what happens. Sometimes it only has to show you what people become. And when you look at it that way, the connection becomes much more interesting. But there is still one final piece missing. Because if the real prediction was never about football, then what was the ultimate message hidden underneath the joke? Why did The Simpsons repeatedly return to this idea? And what does it say about the future that is already approaching? Because the final twist changes everything. The prediction was not about the game. It was about what happens after the game. And that might be the most accurate prediction of all. After looking at all the clues, the connections, and the strange similarities, the biggest realization is not that The Simpsons predicted a football tournament, because that would actually be the least interesting part. The real prediction was something much more subtle, something that was hiding behind all the jokes. The show understood that the future of sports would not only be decided by what happens on the field, it would be decided by what happens around it. The conversations, the reactions, the technology, the endless stream of moments that continue long after the final whistle. The prediction was never the score. For generations, sports history was written through championships. The winners, the records, the legendary performances. But the modern world has added another layer. Now history is also created through attention. A 10-second clip can become more famous than an entire match. A player's expression can become more memorable than the result. A single unexpected moment can define an entire tournament. And that is the strange thing about the future. Sometimes the biggest event is not the thing everyone expected. It is the thing nobody saw coming. Why people believe in predictions. Maybe that is why people continue searching through The Simpsons archives, not because they truly believe every joke is a secret message, but because predictions represent something deeper. They represent our desire to understand what comes next. Humans have always searched for signs. Ancient civilizations looked at the stars. People read patterns in history. Today we look at television shows, movies, and technology. The tools change, but the curiosity stays the same. We want to know what tomorrow looks like. The unexpected message. And maybe that is the most interesting thing about The Simpsons. The show was never really about predicting the future. It was about understanding people. Homer's mistakes, Bart's rebellion, Springfield's chaos. Every ridiculous storyline was built around something real. Human habits, human fears, human ambition. The future does not arrive because someone predicts it. It arrives because people slowly create it. And sometimes a comedy show simply notices those changes before everyone else does. So did The Simpsons predict the 2026 World Cup? Maybe, but probably not in the way people first imagined. The prediction was never about a team lifting a trophy. It was never about knowing the final score. The real prediction was about a world where every moment becomes connected, where sports become entertainment ecosystems, where fans become creators, and where the biggest moments are sometimes created far away from the stadium. The future was not hidden in Springfield. It was hidden in us. For over 3 decades, The Simpsons has held up a mirror to society. Sometimes that mirror is funny, sometimes it is uncomfortable, and sometimes years later, it becomes strangely accurate. But perhaps the most surprising thing is not that a cartoon can imagine the future. The surprising thing is that the future often looks exactly like the things we joked about years earlier. Because every prediction begins as an idea, every change begins as a possibility, and every future begins with something that once seemed impossible. So maybe the question is not, did The Simpsons predict the 2026 World Cup? Maybe the better question is, what other things did they notice before the rest of us? Because if history has taught us anything, the strangest predictions are often the ones that look like jokes at first. And somewhere in Springfield, there may still be a few more surprises waiting.